guys, it's Maya, and today I will be showing you guys how I make my daisy crown ring and my heart ring. The first one that I'm pulling off of my finger is the daisy crown ring. It's actually my favorite design that I've created so far, and even though it takes a bit of time to make, I think it's worth it, and I really hope you guys enjoy. And then this one's just the heart ring. They use similar techniques, which is why I mushed them in the same very long video. But before we get started, I actually wanted to do a bit of an Instagram vlog. So here's my normal account, and then here is my jewelry account. So yeah, follow if you would like to. As with any video, I'm going to start out with the supplies that I use. The first and most important thing you need are pliers. I have three types: round nose pliers, clippers, and then flat nose pliers, and they each serve different purposes, but I think that the most important one are the round nose pliers because you can always use scissors to cut wire as long as the wire isn't too thick, and the flat nose pliers are marginally less useful. Before we get into the wire that I use, just FYI, one of my friends is in the room when I record this, so you will hear things like, "Stop judging me."
You're not judging them that much.
Alright, now onto the wire. The one I'm showing you right now is 28 gauge and it's for wire wrapping. This one is 22 gauge and it's for making the hearts. Just by the way, the larger the number, the thinner the wire is. So right now we're going from thinnest to thickest. And then the last one is 18 gauge and this is what I use to make the frame of the ring. And now we have the star of the show, seed beads. These are obviously used for the flower ring. On to the next item. And now we have ring sizers. Now I didn't at this point have an actual ring sizer, but I did have mascara and markers, so that's what I used. The first ring that I'll be showing you guys how to make is my daisy crown ring. As I've said before, it is my favorite child. Not that I should have favorites, but anyways, it's also the one that takes the longest to make, so. First step to any ring making tutorial is to remove all the rings I'm wearing because my hands get really sweaty, which is a bit TMI. Anyways, the first step to creating this ring is creating the frame using the 18 gauge or thickest wire. This is what the frame looks like when it's not filled in. As you can see, it's just, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. So the first step to creating this frame is to create a small loop on one end of the wire with your round nose pliers. After you're done with that loop, you can start creating the actual ring. So take whatever you're choosing to use as your ring sizer and wrap the wire around it with the loop facing inwards. After that, you can use your flat nose pliers to create a right angle right where the loop ends, and then create another right angle to make the actual frame. After you create the two right angles, you can then use the same mascara stick slash marker slash actual ring sizer, if you're not like me, to create the other side of the frame, I guess. I don't really know what to call it. After you've reached the end, you can use your wire cutters to clip the wire maybe a centimeter after the frame is technically supposed to end, so you have time, or not time, space to create the other loop. I have no idea what I'm saying. And then yeah, you just create the other loop with your round nose pliers and then you have your frame. You can always use the flat nose pliers to kind of round the ends a bit, especially on the flatter side, not the loop side, just so that the frame is completely circular. After you're done creating the frame, we can now choose the colors that we want our flowers to be. So exciting. So what I usually do is choose 1 to 3 colors that I want the petals to be, and then use white as the center of the flowers, but to be honest, you can really use whatever, it doesn't really matter. My personal favorite colors are green, blue, and pink, as you can see from the ring that I made, but for this one I'm gonna switch it up a bit, so here's me being indecisive, and choosing gold, purple, and blue eventually. I'm leaving that in the grass. So I've just dumped all the colors that I'm using on the table, instead of using containers like any sane person. And the first thing we're going to do is create the chain of flowers that we're eventually going to attach to the frame, but not yet. Each of my flowers uses 6 to 7 petal beads, which are colored, and then 1 middle bead, which I usually make white. So here you can just see me stringing 7 of the purple beads onto the piece of 28 gauge wire. And again, if the beads are slightly larger, you might need 6. If they're smaller, you might need 7. So you can decide. Once you're done stringing all of your beads on the wire, you're going to create a loop using the shorter end of the wire and sticking it through the first bead that you ever put on the wire. I'm saying wire a lot. Hopefully the visuals plus my explanation make sense because this is a bit tricky. But yeah, you can see that once I put the end of the wire through the first bead, I'm pulling both ends tight, and now I have a loop of beads, which are going to be the petals for the flower. After I'm done with the petals, I'm now going to string the white bead onto either end of the wire, it doesn't really matter, and put it in the middle of the flower. So as you can see, I'm moving it until it goes in the middle, and then I'm going to move the end of the wire that the white bead is on kind of perpendicular to where it was so that it goes directly through the center. And then I'm going to tuck it through the holes of one of the beads on the opposite side of where the wire originated. If that makes any sense, I have no idea, please let me know. Now I'm just tugging that piece of wire taut so that the wire runs straight through the center of the flower instead of creating that annoying little loop. And now you have your first flower. So after that, you just keep on making flowers with the long end of the 28 gauge wire until you get a whole string of flowers. And the number of flowers that you need really just depends on the size of your frame and the size of your finger. So yeah, just keep on making flowers until it fits the frame, essentially. And here's the completed chain. As you can see, I have a bit of wire left, so depending on how much you cut at the beginning, you can always just chop it off and then save it for another project. Now I'm going to show you guys the process of attaching the strand of flowers to the actual frame. So first what I do is I fit the strand of flowers to the frame approximately just to check that it fits, and then once I know it fits, I will start wrapping the shorter end of the wire around the perpendicular end of the frame rather than the looped end of the frame. Once you wrap that small piece of wire around the frame long enough to reach one of the smaller loops on the other end of the frame, you're going to start threading that wire through both the smaller loop and the other end of the frame to attach the two sides of the frame. I usually thread the wire through both the loop and the other end of the frame at least 3 times just to make sure that they're connected securely. And then once the wire gets short enough, you might need your flat nose pliers to help you wrap the wire around. And once you're done securing that end of the flower strand, you can just cut off the majority of the end of the wire on the other side just so that it's easier to work with. Now I'm going to cut an additional maybe 1.5 to 2 feet of 28 gauge wire so that we can start wrapping the entire frame. Once you wrap the wire around the frame enough that you get to the middle of the first flower, you're going to thread the piece of wire through the wire that connects the petals of the flowers, and then pull tight until the wire is wrapped around both the frame and that piece of wire that connects the petals of the flowers. You're going to repeat this process for every middle of the flower that you encounter on this side, and then you're going to do the identical thing to the other side with a new 1.5 to 2 feet piece of 28 gauge wire. If it turns out that the piece of wire that you cut originally was too short, you can always just cut another piece and then start from where you left off. Once you get close to the end of the frame, keep on threading through until you hit the loop at the very end of the frame. Once you reach there, you're going to start threading the wire through both the loop and the other end of the frame so that you pull them tightly together. And now you can cut another piece of wire and start with the other half of the frame.
Wait,
I'm
no.
not sure that was better. Come to this side. You smell like a turtle.
I don't know what that means.
And there you have it. After sealing both ends of the frame to the other end of the frame, you can now wear your ring. This is just me adjusting it. You can like pop the flowers out a bit to make it more comfortable. Here's the end. Make sure to always tuck in the ends with your flat nose pliers so that they don't stick out and poke you. But yeah, here's the ring. I really like it. I hope you guys enjoyed. And now onto the heart ring design. Oh yeah, and just for funsies, this was the first design of this ring that I came up with, where it didn't have a frame and it was just the 28 gauge wire holding it together. On me, somehow, it didn't break that much, maybe because I understood how delicate it was, but whenever I made it for other people, they would break really easily, so I upgraded to a frame, and now I kind of like it more. Anyways, now we can move on to the heart ring. So for the heart ring, you're going to need all 3 gauges of wire this time, and you're going to start out with the exact same frame that you did with the flower ring. And now, because I was an absolute idiot and forgot to record part of this video, I'm going to show you guys how I made the tiny flowers that go inside the frame, before we actually show you how to attach it to the frame. So this is an up close of the heart. To be honest, you could basically put anything within the frame. I just really like the look of hearts, and I think they're one of the easiest shapes to make. So, to begin with, you're going to start with wire segments that are about 2 centimeters long, cut out of the 22 gauge wire. You should definitely experiment about the length that you want your wire segments to be, in case you want your hearts to be fatter or skinnier or shorter or wider, which also depends on how thick you made your frame. So honestly, I would start at 2 centimeters, make 1 or 2, see if it fits the frame, and then adjust as needed. Once you're done cutting all your segments, I would estimate you need about 10, but you can always cut more later if you need them. You're going to start creating half loops with your round nose pliers on either end of the segment. This is what the so-called half loop looks like. You're not touching the end of the wire to the segment, but you're going halfway, as the name would suggest. And now your wire segment should look like this. After you're done with both ends, you're going to pinch the wire segment in the middle with your round nose pliers and bend it in half until the 2 loops touch. And now you can use your flat nose pliers to flatten out both loops so that they lie flat. I just said flat a lot, and look like the heart in my palm. They don't have to be perfect. None of my hearts are exactly identical, but I think it adds a bit of fun to the actual ring. And yeah, that is how I make these hearts 3 months after I filmed the first part of this video. Alright, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Alrighty, now you're going to cut another 1.5 to 2 foot piece of 28 gauge wire to start wire wrapping, and you're going to wire wrap until you get about like half a heart in, and then you're going to lay one of the hearts in between the 2 prongs of the wire frame. You're going to thread the piece of 28 gauge wire through both the heart and around the frame so that it like is hugging 2 pieces of wire, and then you're going to do that twice for each point of contact the heart makes with the frame. So generally what I mean by point of contact is where the 2 tops of the heart touch on one side of the frame, and then where the point touches on the other side of the frame. And then in between those points of contacts that the heart makes with the frame, you're just going to wrap the wire around the frame as normal. I'm actually now just realizing that in the video, I'm only wrapping the 28 gauge wire around both the heart and the frame once at each contact point instead of twice. I've since changed that and I'm now doing twice. I guess it doesn't really matter because there's not a lot of pressure on the point of contact between the heart and the frame, so it doesn't have to be that strong, but if you want to, or if you like the double wrapped wire instead of single wrapped wire better, it's up to you, I guess. And then this is pretty self-explanatory, but once you're done wrapping the first heart, you add another one until you reach all the way around the frame. Now, by this time in the recording process, I was feeling kind of bored because, again, as I said before, the flower ring and the heart ring both take upwards of an hour for me to make. So yeah, I decided to pull out the YouTube and watch it. Why did I just call it the YouTube? Anyways, yeah, and they took me even longer to film because I was like dealing with filming and making them at the same time, so yeah, that's why my computer is now in the frame. Once I was done with one side of the frame, I cut that piece of excess wire short, tucked it in with my flat nose pliers, and then cut another piece of 28 gauge wire to start wrapping the other side of the frame. I actually started the other side of the frame with connecting the loop of the frame with the perpendicular side of the frame, just to seal the entire ring together. It honestly doesn't matter when you do that. Sometimes I just leave the sealing of the ring to the very end after I'm done wrapping both ends of the frame, but it really doesn't matter. To be honest, it might actually be easier to leave it until the very end, and you'll see why as soon as you try wrapping the ring, but I kind of just do it in a random order every time. It doesn't really matter that much. Once I'm done sealing one side of the ring together, I can now start wrapping the other side of the frame that I didn't do before. This side of the frame is only in contact with the points of the hearts instead of the two top points of the heart, I guess, the two loops of the heart. So you only have to wrap once or twice, depending on which one you choose, at one point for each heart instead of two. And here's just me sealing the other end of the frame, in case you needed a bit extra footage of that, because I know my explanations aren't always the clearest. So yeah, you basically just loop the wire through the loop at the end of the frame, and then wrap it around both that loop and the perpendicular end of the frame. And there you have it, the finished heart ring. After you're done with the wire, obviously just clip it and then tuck it in really tightly with the flat nose pliers so you don't scratch yourself. But other than that, here's the finished product. That's basically it. Now for the outro. Hey guys, it's Maya here in the flesh. I normally don't put my face in my videos, but I figured I would start doing that more because I don't know, I feel like it's more fun when you can associate someone's face with their videos. So here's the face. I also could not for the life of me figure out a place to film because I'm at home right now for winter break. So you're getting the garage. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. It was a lot of fun to make. As I said before, the flower ring is one of my favorite designs, so I was really happy showing it to you guys. Moving on from that, I do have my next video planned. Well, probably my next video. My next video will be my vlog of the craft fair that my college hosted, and I don't know, I just think it like shows a bit more of me instead of just my hands, so that's fun. And then the video after that will be a tutorial on how to make these bad boys. So this is, I call it like my infinity and beyond ring. It's not actually an infinity loop, but I think the name is cool. And then I have my snake charmer ring. This is what she looks like. This one's another one of my favorites. I'm wearing one on this hand, as you can see. So yeah, that will be in the next video. It does involve a bit more like detailed wire wrapping, but I guess like the flower one and the heart one also did, so it shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, I think that's all I had to say. I really hope none of my neighbors just heard me do this outro because that's embarrassing. I guess I'll see you in the next video. I'm actually already editing it, so hopefully it won't be too long until that comes out after this one. But again, we shall see. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye, y'all.